welcome to another episode of Busted Speakers. I'm Alex,
I'm Ed.
And I'm Cam.
and today we're reviewing a nice little EP that just dropped from Jeff Rosenstock and Laura Stevenson, Still Young, which is 4 Neil Young covers. So, right off the bat, let's say how we thought about it. Ed?
Yeah, I guess I've earned something of a reputation as a resident Jeff Rosenstock fanboy on this channel at this point, after we reviewed the Antarctica Vespucci album last year. And I think we talked about Post and Worry a bunch in that review. But
Yeah.
this is kind of more of a fan release, I'd say. It's not really an essential release to anyone who isn't already a Jeff Rosenstock fan and has probably already heard this, honestly. But honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it's 4 good to very good Neil Young covers, a very good selection of songs, because trust me, there's a lot of songs they could have chosen that would have not gone down as well as these have. But I pretty much enjoyed every track here. Harvest Moon and After the Gold Rush are some of my favorite songs anyway, so hearing these kind of cool Jeffified versions of them was really interesting. And it makes me want to listen to more of Laura Stevenson's stuff because I'm not as familiar with her discography. So yeah, solid release.
Cam?
So I haven't checked out Jeff Rosenstock beyond the Love in the Time of Email album that we reviewed. So this would be the second release I've heard by him, and I'm decently familiar with Neil Young. I have all but one of the albums that these songs are from, and I think that they're all really faithful covers while being unique enough to justify being covers. And one line that I've always heard about Bob Dylan is that his songs are basically made to be interpreted by other people. And I feel the same way about Neil Young. I think that there's enough similarities between Young and Dylan for that claim to make sense.
Just out of interest, what was the one album you didn't have a song from?
I think Through My Sails is on Zuma, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's,
same here. I don't have that either.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I have all up from Neil Young up through
Tonight's the Night.
yeah, I have up to Tonight's the Night, except for like one soundtrack album that I've never heard of in somewhere in the early 70s. And then I have like one or two from the 80s, couple from the 90s. But yeah, I have the others, and for the most part, they're all really good covers. I'm definitely glad I heard this EP.
Same with me. I mean, I was really happy with the song selection because Harvest Moon is probably my favourite Neil Young song. So just seeing that as the first song instantly got me excited.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, and this cover is just fantastic. I've seen that After the Gold Rush is a really hard song to cover, and I'm glad that they didn't go really faithful with it. Like, this is definitely a Jeffified version of it, and definitely not like a piano ballad type thing that I thought he might have done. I don't think that would have worked, so I'm glad he did this. Yeah, I'm just really happy with this EP. It's a really nice thing to just stick on and just enjoy, and I really happy with it overall.
Yeah, nice and positive. I wanted to say on After the Gold Rush, if you're done with your summary, it is a very hard song to cover because I feel like it has so many chord changes in it, and I agree that it's so good that they didn't try and do like a piano ballad version. Instead, it's this heavily overdriven, distorted, dual vocal kind of bustling interpretation of
Yeah,
the
the
original
production's
song.
quite heady and messy almost, but in a good way, where the lyrics actually bounced a lot more and almost got a new meaning, sort of like they actually felt closer to the lyric.
It makes it sound more anthemic, I think, whereas I feel the original version is really mellow and very kind of psychedelic, more than anything. There's some kind of bad lyrics in there, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the lines about feeling like getting high are kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. But and they not gonna lie, they sound worse in the context of this version where they're like basically yelling the lyrics of the song. Not that
Yeah,
that in itself is a bad thing, but
now
yeah,
this
just something
is
I noticed.
that was the one song on this that I didn't really feel as much as the others, mostly because of the vocals. I'm not sure if it's that just because they were singing, I don't know if it's harmony or unison, whatever, they were just singing at the same time, or if
Yeah.
there was some vocal distortion that they added to it, or the fact that they were kind of yelling, or if it's a combination of all three. But that one just put me off a little bit.
Yeah. It's funny because on Instagram the other day, Jeff posted an email he'd received, I think, from the label releasing this EP,
All right.
saying, Is track 2 intentionally this overcompressed?" And he gave
Oh,
no
right.
context to it, but yeah, obviously it's this intentionally overcompressed. But I think it's a cool vibe. Definitely unexpected. It's kind of a left hook when you look at the song titles and see what Neil Young songs have been selected. Even knowing Jeff's previous work, I thought this was going to be a lot more faithful to the originals as a
Yeah,
whole.
because the definitely Harvest Moon and Through My Sails are extremely faithful, and I'll get to Ambulance Blues in a second, but
Oh man.
yeah, that's like the big one for me, kind of. But after the Gold Rush, I mean, it is kind of like Neil Young's signature famous song, so I'm glad that they didn't just retread of it.
Yeah.
This is definitely their own version, although it's probably actually the one that they made their own unique spin to more than the other three, so
I'd say so
I'm
as
I'm
well.
fine with it.
I'd say Through My Sails is probably the most like traditional sounding song on here, although I've not heard the original Neil Young version of that, so I couldn't say how
Well,
faithful it
well,
is
the
really.
original Neil Young version of that is very, very similar to this, almost exactly the same melody,
Yeah.
except instead of so Jeff is doing kind of the main Neil Young vocal part, and Laura's excellent harmony parts in the original are done by Crosby, Stills and Nash. That was like a surprise that
Ah,
they were working with him again.
that's
That's
cool.
cool.
Yeah. So that's definitely a highlight from Zuma, and it also closed the Zuma album, so it really works well here as well. I always loved that song, and it's just a song that I didn't know was famous enough to get covered but on something like this. So I'm glad it got attention on a release like this, even if it is
Yeah,
like a side project, side release from Jeff.
yeah, it's definitely good that it's not just the four most obvious Neil Young songs to cover. They could have so easily covered Only Love Can Break Your Heart or Heart of Gold and just completely made this thing a corny mess. But I feel like having Through My Sails on there kind of gives it a sense that, yes, they are actually Neil Young fans. They're not just covering him for the sake of it or anything. It's just a fun little bonus release. It dropped out of nowhere. There was no lead up to its release, and just something that you can't really complain about.
Yeah. Then there's the big one, Ambulance Blues. I'm
Oh
really,
man.
really happy with what they did. Well, it's a big one in terms of how long it is, but it's also in terms of the impact it had. Because the original is a really great song, and it's also really great because of how minimal the recording is. Most of it is just Neil and a plaintive, minimalist recording of an acoustic guitar. Here,
Hmm.
this actually almost captures some sort of crazy horse guitar heavy production style,
Yeah.
which I really liked. It was almost capturing a different side of Neil on a song that was previously like a solo Neil song. So I definitely liked what they did there. And there's also the surprise near the end, which I don't know if any one of you two want to say what it is, or just leave it to the listeners to find out for themselves.
I heard about it, but I'm not familiar with the artist who was featured. It's the singer from the Hold Steady, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's Craig from the Hold Steady. I
Yeah.
heard it and I knew there was some guest vocalist that wasn't Jeff or Laura, but
Yeah.
I wasn't. When I heard it, it didn't immediately spring to mind it was him, but I
Hmm.
definitely knew I'd heard his voice from somewhere.
I mean, I've heard that band before. I listened to one of their albums a long time ago, but yeah, I wouldn't have been able to remember who it was. I only know this because someone on Radio Music mentioned it. But yeah, it's a cool little part. I've got to say though, I feel a little differently about this track than you do, Alex.
Right.
I I kind of don't prefer any of the first three tracks on this EP to the original versions, but that's not really the point.
I don't prefer them either. I just really, really like them
Yeah,
as their own things, I guess.
but with Ambulance Blues, I think it is kind of considerably weaker than the original. I feel like the
Right.
long, winding, meditative structure of the original kind of suits the minimalism. Whereas on here, by the time you're on the third repeat of the kind of breakdown towards the end, it doesn't really feel as anthemic as it seems like they're trying to make it be. And it doesn't feel anthemic compared to Jeff Rosenstock's own material when it does a similar thing. So I feel like they could have brought in more instrumentation towards the end of this rendition of Ambulance Blues to make it really just this epic centerpiece to this EP and make this EP something really special that I would consider essential. But on the whole, it is still a good song. And that's the thing, like, originally these songs were good songs, so it's kind of difficult to mess them up, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to really do something terrible to mess these songs up because they're just so inherently well written.
Yeah.
Aside from those dodgy lines you were mentioning in
Yeah,
after the goal.
they're few and far between, though, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And the plain songwriting, melodic qualities of them lend themselves well to being covered.
Yeah.
As Cam was saying.
Yeah. I've got to say one thing about the cover of Harvest Moon. Obviously, it's a fantastic song, and this is a great cover, but
Yeah.
Jeff Rosenstock's sax solo, it's happening. It happened in this song, and that's
Yeah,
all
'cause
you
the
need to know.
original's like a harmonica solo.
Yeah.
And that was
I almost
I was
anticipated
really-
it. I almost anticipated the sax solo when I was first listening to this. I
I
was
didn't
like,
even know he played saxophone that much.
Oh,
Like, I know
man.
there is saxophone a lot on his albums, but I never specifically knew he was playing it. So that was a great surprise and a good like substitution for the harmonica.
yeah,
part.
the sax playing is definitely a lot more prominent in his Bomb the Music industry material, but he also played a sax rendition of Champagne Supernova when I saw him live in Manchester, which was
Oh, that would be amazing.
really fucking funny because in the stage banter he was joking about how someone gave him a Best of Oasis CD and it was 2 discs and it did not have Champagne Supernova on it. So it was just like, say what you will about Oasis, but Champagne Supernova's a really good song. And so midway through one of their own songs, he broke out into a sax solo and stood on the bar table. So kind of amazing.
I really need to see this guy live.
Yeah.
man.
I guess my point with that huge tangent was, like, after you see that, you know he's a sax player.
Do you have any main thoughts about that Ambulance Blues song, Cam?
Honestly,
Okay.
that was my favorite song on the EP, and
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it and Harvest Moon are probably the big two for me, because Harvest Moon seemed like the most faithful while still being its own unique thing.
I get what you mean because it had those guitar droning things and the sort of undergrowth of the song, which I really liked.
And the sax
Yeah.
solo.
Yeah, and that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ambulance Blues just felt the most like Jeff doing his own thing. It's really hard to describe. You know, it's like one is faithful while still being its own thing, but one is its own thing while still being faithful.
Yeah.
And to me, like the best part about Ambulance Blues was like maybe it's not, but I'm just gonna call it the brilliance of making the harmonica part synthesizer part, and that to me is what really elevated the song
Yeah.
above like into the territory of being separate while still being faithful. I really loved
Yeah,
it.
I don't want to discredit how good that synth part is,
Yeah.
but what I was saying before was like that specific part is repeated 3 times in a row, and it kind of doesn't escalate all that much. So that was kind of an
I
issue.
think I
had
get what
with
you
it.
mean, Ed. It's like a sustained heaviness that doesn't exactly.
It doesn't build too well, honestly.
Yeah, but I still love it just because Ambulance Blues is
Yeah, it's a great song.
such a song.
Yeah.
Like, although yeah, I would say obviously Neil's original would eclipse it, but that's not so in some of the other ones. But yeah, in general, I'm really glad that they did this. That Jeff and Laura they're clearly big fans of Neil Young, and they just sounds like they're having a lot of fun here doing their own versions, and I wouldn't be averse to some more similar EP fins like this, maybe on other artists, or I don't know. I'm just happy to have this, I guess.
Definitely. Shall we give our scores?
Sure. I would give this a 7 out of 10. I really liked it, and that's all. I mean, it's all just four really solid, faithful covers that also do their own thing. That it's worthwhile that they exist, that they're not just corny covers of the obvious stuff like you were saying, Ed. You can tell they're big fans by the choices they did, and yeah, it's just a really nice thing to listen to.
Cam?
I will also give it a 7. I really can't add anything to what Alex just said.
So you won't.
Sorry, boys.
That's okay.
Wow, I would also give this a 7. Maybe a light 7. So it's all 7s. It's a triple 7.
Guess we are turning into the pitchfork reviewing crew.
We really are. Yeah, our aggregate is right on the head. It's a 7. I think the Harvest Moon and After the Gold Rush covers are great. They're gonna be on my year-end Spotify playlist for sure. Ambulance Blues is good. Feels a bit too long, whereas the original didn't. And Through My Sails, not familiar with the original, but it was a nice, sweet little song to wrap this little side project up. Can't wait to see what Jeff does in future. As I said, 7 out of 10. Really solid fan release, I'd say. Check it out.
Okay, that does us for another review on Busted Speakers. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.